My name's Corey, and like Kathy said, I am the owner-operator chef of Milo All Day. How many of y'all have been there yet? Awesome, cool. Did you have a good time? Hope you had a good time. If you didn't, we'll go hang out there next time, and I'll make sure you have a pleasant experience. Which is all part of like the entrepreneurship journey, is like constantly evolving, constantly making changes in the moment, or practically, like literally after this, I'm going to whiteboard a reorganization of our, organizational chart with all my business partners. So it's like, it is constant. My passion is food. I want to be in the kitchen, getting burnt, cooking stuff, having people yell at you, feeling like the world's going to crumble, and then just like pushing through. And that's my personal favorite part of all of this. Learning how to operate a business, learning how to be an entrepreneur, which I use that term very loosely, and I told Kathy this, like, I don't feel like an entrepreneur. I understand that I may be one, but again, my passion, my desire is being in front of a grill, fire, taking apart a pig, taking apart chickens. Sorry for vegans or vegetarians out there. But it happens, okay? It does happen all the time. And that's another thing. If you ever want to come and let me teach you how to take apart a pig, I can do it blindfolded, so it's a lot of fun. And sometimes I cut myself. So everything I think starts with a dream. I think that you have to motivate yourself past just thinking about it and like, oh, this would be cool, but like, do you really have a dream that can kind of internalize itself inside of you? And I was telling Baxter up here, which y'all should meet Baxter. She's wonderful. She's a freshman this year, and she's going to open a lot of really cool businesses. But I was telling her that one of the things that I think really takes you over that hump is being able to visualize something that you can do better than someone else. It's not necessarily like this is actually better than someone else, but it's a different look at something. Like the restaurant that we have. We, on the outside, are a southern restaurant, kind of contemporary style, sourcing farm to table, being really intentional about the products we have. Everything from the salt that we use because it feels better as you're seasoning stuff, all the way down to the liqueurs that we use in some of our cocktails, or the pigs that we use, or the vegetables that we use. The oil, the kind of oil that we fry in is sunflower oil, because the way that it engulfs the product and actually doesn't inject the product with a ton of oil, it actually just fries the outside and helps it stay nice and juicy. It's all those things that I think that I have a different look on it. And that's what originally motivated me to start the food truck, and then eventually led us to the restaurant as well. With the food truck, I always kind of correct people. We didn't just start in a food truck, we started in a tent in July at the farmer's market in Waco. It was really hot. It was really early mornings, and I don't know if any of you all got the biscuits that we made, but those literally just came out of the oven, so you should get some. It's my grandmother's recipe. But I would wake up at 3:30 in the morning, start shredding the butter because it was frozen, taking the frozen butter into the flour. The flour that I imported from Georgia is the same flour that my grandmother used, using cultured buttermilk because it's the only kind of buttermilk you should be using. And making those biscuits, letting them cool, taking them to the farmer's market, opening up, setting that tent up, building the setup, starting the brand there in that moment of like welcoming people in, saying, hey, we're foundationally based in all the things you love about growing up, all the things you love about your grandmother, but we also like to put kimchi on a biscuit, and with braised pork that's kind of Mexican style, and like making gochujang mayonnaise or things like that, that just thinking about the way that you present things and why are you doing this, and making it intentionally in every single step of the way. And so starting in the summer of 2015, taking that to the food truck, which we opened when the silos opened up as well. And that was like kind of our actual forced growth point. Is we were just doing the farmer's market, doing a little bit of catering, grew into the food truck, and at the silos, and just had to kind of start materializing this organizational structure, materializing like how are we going to do this, how are we going to facilitate getting product, how are we going to get it, how are we going to take it there, how are we going to pack it, how are we going to store it, what are we going to have, how much can we serve, how many things can we have stored on the truck to serve 800 people in a day. And all those things kind of all happen at once. And so that's not my gift. My gift, again, is cooking really good food, being really intentional about that, and then having to learn all these other things as well. So kind of surrounding yourself with the right people, surrounding yourself with people that care about you enough to kind of be dragged through the mud and go through the stuff with you. And I think that's kind of the story of what my entrepreneurship journey has been, is like surrounding myself with people that for one reason or another just loved what I was doing, cared about me enough to walk through this with me. So again, that was part of the dream. Kind of got a little off track there. Where we started, why we started, kind of went over those. Planning the business. So the dream was never really to have a food truck. It just, again, it kind of happened. It was one of those things, again, like it was kind of, this opportunity kind of presented itself, and I felt like it was a good growth point to test the concept, see if it would actually work, see if people got behind having, gochujang aioli on a biscuit with braised pork that we braised for 36 hours on banana leaf and kept basting it with orange juice. Hopefully I'm making you hungry. I keep saying like all the words. And so the idea was always, hey, let's test this product. I want to do a restaurant. There was this kind of middle point, which was the food truck that really helped us kind of gauge our audience, constantly change the menu, constantly kind of evolve and never have the same thing on there all the time, which actually led us into our restaurant as well. So if you come to the restaurant, the menu is always different. I'm always in there super early in the morning, seeing what we have and see what I can facilitate for that evening. The lunch menu kind of stays the same, but the thing that I loved about the food truck, which influenced the restaurant, was that flexibility, that ability to constantly create and be ahead of yourself almost, and then figuring out with your team, like, how do we make this happen? How do we put the best thing on the plate? How do we engage our customers on an everyday basis and not just leave it kind of the same way all the time, monotonous, because I would just get super bored. My ADHD would be out of control. And that was one of the things that I wanted to pull from the food truck. Like, this was really cool that we got to do this, and we did it at the wine shop a whole lot. Every Friday we would go there, and totally different menu every single time. And then we got some regulars, and they kind of got used to our fried quail or our mad burger, which I got to tell you about our mad burger real quick. Okay, so potato bun. Whenever you were a kid and you make a ham sandwich, you put potato chips on your sandwich. So we make sweet potato chips, put that on put it on the bun with a chimichurri aioli. We grind our patty in-house, so it's brisket, beef chuck, short rib, and then pork shoulder, and then a third of it is just ground bacon in there. Just mix it all up. And then instead of cheese, we make a smoked cheddar mornay, which is a bechamel or gravy that you add cheese to. So instead of it having to melt, it's just like swimming in this like cheese sauce, and it's just really tasty. So people got used to that and loved the messy burger, loved the playfulness with the potato chips on it, like squishing it would crunch, and you had all this stuff going on. And I thought that again, that was something. Let's pull that from the food truck. Let's put that to the restaurant. Am I making sense right now? I'm sweating a lot. You are looking at me like I'm crazy. Am I doing good? Have I spoken for 45 minutes yet? Crap, okay. I'm just kidding. No, but what I'm trying to kind of surmise through that is the best part of going from the food truck to the restaurant was that we had time. We had an audience, sometimes captive, sometimes not, sometimes reigning, sometimes not. And actually this past year, whenever we did New Year's Eve at the wine shop, it was a total ice storm, and it was like crazy. We were like shucking oysters in the back and it was super cold, and there's wind and rain and snow and everything was wild. But all those little things all along the way really helped us test our concept. It really helped us test our team. It really helped us figure out what our processes are and why we're doing this. And as we were opening the restaurant, my thought initially was kind of, we're going to change everything. We're just not going to do anything that we used to do. We're going to make a whole new product, total rebrand, and then everyone kind of started to push back a little bit of like, hey, where's this? Where's this? Like, we loved when you did this. We loved when you did this. And I'm like, yeah, but that was like in the food truck. I mean, whatever. We're in a restaurant. It's beautiful. It's sexy. It's like fun to go to. We got drinks. We got all this stuff. Let's make everything cool. And I was foolish and thinking that that's what people wanted, was for me to just change everything and make it what I wanted instead of what they wanted, what the customers wanted. So it's like in the kitchen, I have this saying of, don't cook at the customer, cook for the customer. And so that was kind of a reshift of what we were trying to do against what the customer really wanted, which was like, hey, dance with the one that brought you here. Do some of your classics, but like keep reinventing. See what the farmers are bringing you, and that's what pushes me like every day to like be better, do better, and integrate that creativity with like what people really want. And I think that at the heart of it, that's probably what makes me an entrepreneur, is like trying to get inside and figure out what turns your buttons, like what moves your knobs, what adjusts all your levels so that you, yes you, what does that for you? Like, why do you want to come in here? Why do you want to come into Milo? Why do you want to come here instead of going to Moroso's, which I love Moroso's, or go to Guest Family Barbecue, or like go to Nifa's or wherever it is, and what makes you want to come in here? And so that's where after this, I'm going to go talk to all my business partners. Like, that's where I want to go. I want to figure out, how do I learn what is in your head, is in your stomach, is, like Kathy said, like the things that kind of engaged you as a child. Like, why do you eat the things you eat? Why do you have the preferences that you have? One of the things that we run into a lot at the restaurant is people will come in, will sit down, and will say, I only drink red wine. Don't show me any white wine. I know you see that all the time too. I only drink red wine. And it's like, why do you only drink red wine? It's like, well, I've only ever had red wine. How have you only had red wine? There's all these wines out there. And so it's like, let's show people that through like kind of building a flavor profile, like teaching them like this and these pieces like go together to make this happen for you, so that all of our intention on the front end for these dishes is kind of seen through with the things that you're drinking or eating alongside of it, the things you're hearing, the things you're smelling. And we were also talking about the theater of the restaurant. And like, if you've been in there, it's super open. It's a little loud. That's intentional, because I like loud music and I turn it up really loud. It's mainly Taylor Swift, I have to be honest with you though. But all those little dramatic things add to the things that the way that you taste something, the way that you experience something. And those are the things that, as an entrepreneur, I'm getting comfortable with that word, that I'm trying to understand why and how to make it more impactful for people. One of the things that we ran into when we were first opening up was staffing. Staffing was probably the hardest thing that we interacted with, because you open your doors, come interview with us. I want a job. Well, why do you want this job? Well, I just need a job for the summer. So it's, this place is a little more than that. Like, are you okay with taking food tests, wine tests? Are you okay with like learning about our farmers? Do you want to go out to the farmers with me and like till up the land, or like feed the pigs, or like feed the cows? Like, I do all those things because I care, and I want people to understand like the level of care that goes into every single thing that goes into the plate. And not everybody does. And some people just want a job for the summer, and they want to make money and then go back to school and have money. And I get that. Again, it was a refocus of what I thought it was going to be, and then not necessarily what everyone else thought it was going to be. And teaching people like in the moment, and like not necessarily this big grand vision that I have that's just kind of ridiculous at sometimes, but kind of bringing it back down to earth, and like helping engage with them and the customer on what exactly it is and how we can make the customer's experience better. They don't necessarily need to know like what kind of grass the cow's eating. I care about that because I think it's cool, but not every staff member needs to know that. So yeah, I think that staffing, you're always going to have trouble. You always want more out of people, and you always want people to get it the way you get it, but they just never will. And you have to compromise on that level of care for your product, and also care for the person that's kind of busting it for you every single day. And that's a balance that I've definitely had to learn of not getting nuclear on people because they don't care as much, and they just are just throwing food on the table, and they don't care how long it took to plate it, or like all the little garnishes we put on it, or they just take it out of the window before I put the right salt on it, or whatever it is. You have to like kind of slowly get people into the groove of like why you're doing the things you're doing. Obviously, not everybody's in here going to do food, but that's what I do, and I apply everything to that. I think the other thing too that really hurt was reviews. Again, people didn't quite understand what I wanted to do or what I was doing. And why for example, we have this dry-aged ribeye on the menu right now that comes with pickled mushrooms. Well, pickles are usually cold, and I thought that made sense to people, but apparently it didn't. And then they were angry that they were cold. Why aren't the mushrooms warm? I'm like, well, they're pickled mushrooms. Like, they're kind of cold to go with the fattiness of that dry-aged ribeye, and it works. And they were like, it doesn't work for me. I'm like, well, it should work for you. Like, taste it. No, I don't want to eat cold mushrooms. I'm like, okay, all right. So, those are things that intention doesn't always work out the way that you wanted it to. Again, I'm not trying to doom and gloom, but I think that over time you kind of figure out who your customer base is, and honestly, there's a kind of a language that we use called, you can fire a customer. You can just say to someone like, hey, you're actually not for us, and we're probably not for you. And that's okay. Like, we don't have to be everything to all people, and I think that as a business, you have to be comfortable with saying those things. You have to be comfortable with sticking to your guns, but also like being flexible enough to where you don't alienate everybody. And that's where the people that you surround yourself with and the people that you seek advice from, that's where that's what they play to. Those are the things that they will help you see to like get outside of your little world and listen to the other people that are around you. Another thing that I think that I've learned, especially through this, like opening the restaurant. So we have 100 employees. We're open 15 hours a day, 6 days a week. It's completely insane. Going from a food truck where we had like 8 employees, we were only open for like 5 hours a day. It was a cakewalk. But now we're open so many hours. We have so many employees. There's so many other things we have to facilitate other than just prep the food, cook the food, serve the food, get out of here. It's like healthcare, and then insurance, and accounting, and social media management, all those little things that, I want to pretend like I can do all day long, but in reality, I can't. I think that part of being an entrepreneur is like learning what you're good at, learning what you're bad at, and sticking to the things that you're good at. Over the past 6 weeks, I've hired a new kitchen manager, I've hired a new bookkeeper, I've hired a new insurance guy, like all those little things, just like getting things off your plate so that you can really focus on the things that drive you, the things that you love, the things that you want to do and you want to focus on. And at some point, that's okay. Like, you don't have to do everything. And if you try to do everything, you're going to burn yourself out super quick, and no one's going to see the passion in your eyes. Like, be able to talk to, like me, I get to talk to people at the table all the time and like engage with them. They won't see that with me if I'm just buried under insurance documents or, healthcare stuff or, accounting stuff. Like, I believe that it's for your best interest to push all that stuff off, do the things you love, and just really commit to that. One of the analogies that I use in entrepreneurship is a golf analogy. How many of y'all play golf? How many of you are actually good? Put your hand down. None of you are all good. I'm just kidding. But there's that one hole every single time where like the wind is right, the earth moves correctly, something happened with your swing on the last hole, and you just hit the ball and it's perfect. It goes as straight as possible, it has a big, big curve and comes right down exactly where you want it to. Your whole day is made. It could have been on the third hole, play 18 more holes, play 36 more holes, doesn't matter. That one shot meant everything. And I feel the same way about owning a business and engaging with customers. There's this little girl. We were having a crappy night. I'm watching my language. I told her earlier, I've been in kitchens for 12 years. My language gets a little out of control sometimes, so I'm trying really hard. But we were having a really crappy night, and I was super mad at like front of house, back of house, bartenders, GM. I was just like, guys, like, did you just forget who we were and what we were doing? Like, did we not talk about any of this beforehand? Have we not done this like 87 other times? Like, what's going on? Little girl comes up, and if you've been at the restaurant, the kitchen's open, and you can sit like at the kitchen and like watch us cook and everything, watch us expo. And this little girl comes up, sits here, like literally right beside me. And she just like looks at me. She said, "Hey, so what are they doing back there?" I'm like, "What?" She's like, "What are they cooking back there?" I'm like, "Chicken." She's like, "Oh, cool. What's that guy doing?" He's basting a pork chop. What is she doing? "Oh, she's making the salad." "Oh, cool. What's she putting on top?" And then I just like get to talking to her. parents come up. She's like, I'm sorry. Like, she watches Food Network. She watches Chopped. She's like so interested in all these things. And I'm like, oh, cool. So she wants to do this. She's like, I don't know. She just loves to cook. She loves to do this. She loves to cook in the kitchen. She loves to experience all of this. And that was like 3 or 4 weeks after we opened. And so I got to talking to her and talking to her parents. I was like, well, does she want to come back here and like cook some stuff with us? They're like, can she do that? I was like, yeah, I don't care. I mean, I own this place. I can do whatever I want to. So we go back there and like she's cooking. She's like puts on one of our aprons and she's like having a blast. And it like made everything like all of a sudden come very real and very like, wow, like we can have an impact on people if we actually take some time to just listen to what they're saying, feed into their passion and feed into their interest and bring them into the situation instead of keeping them away from us the whole time. And that story, like that whole interaction, like her and her parents like come in all the time and she's gone in the back and like baked cookies with us and stuff. And like that is the fun part. That's like what all of the crap is all about. Like you go through all this stuff, you work, I work 125 hours a week. I burn myself all the time. I have like half of all my fingers on. And it's all worth it because I can reach out to her, I can reach out to you guys, and I've brought people into the situation and brought people into the experience and like fed into what they want out of it instead of what I want out of it. I was really happy you talked about passion at the very beginning. Do any of y'all know who Thomas Keller is? Anybody? Thomas Keller, maybe. He's a chef, maybe the most important chef in the United States ever. He owns the French Laundry, Per Se, Bouchon. He had the first Michelin star in the United States a bunch of years ago. He has kind of become an ambassador for our industry. An ambassador for making us better and not making the kitchen like the worst place in the world to work in, but to make it more influential, more impactful, more global, more inclusive instead of exclusive. And he has this TED Talk, which I encourage y'all to go watch because I think it's applicable to not just food, and what I'm going to read is just about food, but I think it can really reach out to everyone and every little thing that you do. So this is from his TED Talk called Passion versus Desire. It's not about passion. Passion is something that we tend to overemphasize, that we certainly place too much importance on. Passion ebbs and flows, and to me it's about desire. If you have a constant, unwavering desire to be a cook, then you'll be a great cook. If it's only about passion, sometimes you'll be good and sometimes you won't. You've got to come in every day with a strong desire, with a passion. If you see the first asparagus of the springtime and you become passionate about it, so much the better. But 3 weeks later, when you still see asparagus, and right now we have so much squash on the menu, but I love squash. You see that asparagus every day, passions have subsided. What's going on to make you treat the asparagus the same? It's the desire. So, my challenge to y'all, be about desire. Let passion get you there, but let desire keep you there. I think that if you focus on that every day, you'll be a better student, you'll be a better entrepreneur in the future, you'll be a better boss, you'll be a better everything. If you let passion just keep you there, passion subsides, it goes away, it comes back, but desire will be the unwavering thing. So thank you again for letting me come speak today.
Starting a food truck business versus starting a restaurant business, different regulations, different licenses, different rules, and how all of that impacted, and which was easier, which was more difficult, or?
So the food truck thing was definitely easier. It was a lot less expensive. To get a health permit for a food truck is like $100. To get it for the restaurant is like $3,000. And the difficult part about the food truck is you have to have a commissary and you have to have like a place that your food is delivered, stored, prepped, and then moved to the food truck. And so that in itself, like you're kind of constantly moving, you're never in the same place. So that's difficult. And opening the restaurant permits you have, I mean, building permits, you have health permits, you have alcohol permits. I mean, we paid $35,000 worth of permits before we opened. I mean, before we made a dime in the restaurant, we were already like paying for permits. And so I think that they're not the same, and they're not really that different. And at times, like, it seemed like the food truck is easier, but then at times, like, I mean, our kitchen is right there. Our cooktop is, our cooks are right there. Like, you walk in the back door, all of our stuff is there. You carry it to the line, you put it in your station. It's all right there. It wasn't like, oh man, did we get propane? Are we gonna have a place to plug the truck up at? Is the electrical system gonna work? Like, all those little things were hard to deal with in the food truck, but also like momentary. And again, we were open for a couple of hours and it wasn't that big of a deal. But now it does feel much easier. You walk in, you turn the lights on, you turn the light all the pilots for all the cooking equipment, you turn everything on, and you start going. And I think that there's benefits to both. I mean, the overhead is definitely lower in the food truck. It's so much lower. But it was a really great place to test the concept and kind of discover who we were. Did I answer your question?
You did.
Okay.
Why'd you open a store or
A restaurant
instead of just opening a second?
Food truck? Kind of like what I was saying earlier. I think that I wanted to have a complete vision of what it was going to be instead of having like little pieces of it. Like the food truck was just a food truck. Alcohol is a big component of what we do. Pairing wines with things, having certain cocktails during certain seasons. It's become part of our offerings. Definitely, it's something I always wanted to have as part of it. Focusing on growers. I mean, just the specificity of like some of the wine that we bring in, and like the relationships that we get to have with the growers and the people that are bringing that stuff in is really it's a lot of fun. And I think that the food truck is, again, it's like kind of constantly, you're always moving, you're always going, like you're never in one place, and it's like hard to be reliable. I mean, now it's like if it rains, it's like, well, it's raining, who cares? Come inside. If it's hot, well, who cares? We have air conditioning, And I think that food trucks are wonderful and they're awesome. They're really good at doing like one specific thing, and I think that I wanted my offerings to be bigger and broader instead of just like doing a biscuit sandwich or fried quail. I wanted to do dry aged ducks and like pork chops and stuff like that. So that's why, just to do more fun things.
What advice do you have to facing the challenges that come with starting up a restaurant? So like you said, the permits or getting the startup costs or making sure you have customers on a regular basis.
So cash is king, have lots of money, and protect it with your life. I think that planning out what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. I mean, obviously building a pro forma, creating cash flow projections, figuring out who your market is. Like, are we, and that was one of the big things we faced was like, is Milo a restaurant for Waco? Probably not. We're not going to have chicken fried steak every day. But I love chicken fried steak. We're just not going to have that. And we also don't have ketchup, which is a big thing. But we make our ketchup. It's very good though. But yeah, I mean, I think that figuring out who your market is, protecting your cash, creating realistic projections of what other businesses do in town. Like, so we hired a company to like kind of give us here's what you're looking at when you're starting a restaurant. Here's kind of typical revenue models. Here's what you can look at, what your taxes are going to be, all those like details, those statistics, and then we built our pro forma and like kind of our opening budgets off of those things. And so I think that it's a lot of dirty work, like figuring out all that stuff. It's even harder. I mean, again, like I said, we have 100 people that work for us. So it's making sure that all those people are constantly doing what we had planned to do, so that we don't get upside down and all of our margins are out of whack, And so I think that being a student of what numbers can do for you and sticking to that is super important. And then figuring out how to reach and keep your customers.
What are your goals and aspirations for the coming future for the business?
I want to move to France and raise sheep and drink wine all day. I'm not kidding. That's really what I want to do. No, I think that I don't want to franchise Milo. People ask me that all the time. Like, do you want to open another Milo? I was like, not really. Like, this one's really personal. My dad passed away a year and a half ago, and him passing away was one of the reasons I was able to do this alone and not with like all these people. And I think that, I mean, if you come in, like there's a picture of him hanging on the wall, like he's looking at the stove, because if he was here, he'd be like over my back all the time, like, Corey, make sure you're doing that right. I'm like, Dad, you're an electrician. Like, oh, get out, get away. So I put him like right there at the kitchen so that he could always look over our shoulder. So this one's a little personal. I would love to do like something smaller. Like I would love to do a 20-seat restaurant where the kitchen is in the middle and there's no menu. Like you just don't get a menu, you just get a chalkboard. And the whole time, like I'm drawing different kind of correlations to each dish that I'm doing and pairing it differently. That's one thing I want to do. I also want to open up a hot chicken restaurant that also has an arcade in it as well, which would be a lot of fun. But aspiration-wise, I think that making this the best possible version of this. And you know, the thing about moving to France, I'm going to do that too. So.
Okay, so my question's about staffing. I know you touched on it, but if you've created a space that, like you said, right now Waco largely it pushes the envelope for them. Do you feel like staff-wise, Waco will be able to produce the caliber, or even people who are wanting to be pushed and wanting to do, because y'all are educators, you know, what y'all are doing, and you have to cull through a lot of people to get to that, but there's like a core people, or do you feel like that is still a difficult thing? Because you're, you know, it's a restaurant for Waco, but
Yeah.
you're having to serve so many people too that aren't.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, I think it's on us, it's on me, it's on, you know, it's on David Mayfield. I mean, to make sure that whenever we hire someone, we do our absolute best job to be really intentional about the way that we train, the way that we teach, and like it's never based on pretension. It's never based on like, well, you should know this or you're stupid. It's based on like, hey, this is really good information that if you don't know this information, you can walk away from the table and knowing getting $25 or you can get $250. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not always about money, but like I think too, like just the ability to experience something the way that it was intended to do is all about education. And I think that it's on me to make sure that I've set it up properly so that no one can fail, you know, and like give them all the tools. And so I think that as long as you have an open mind and like you want to be engaged, then you can work for us. If you don't, it may get I hope that it gets to a point where I don't have to hire those people. You know what I mean? Like people are just like, I just want to make money, I don't care. Like I hope that I get a core staff and like be able to develop a culture here of like the service industry is really beautiful and you get to motivate people and you get to like get people. I could have cried this entire time, just full disclosure, but like you get to help people kind of get to your level and like understand what you're getting at. And I think that being able to share that from like the cook that made this dish to the person that's eating it and why they cooked it and why they did it this way, or like, you know, all of it. Like I think that hopefully one day we get there, that where we do have a really great core of people who care about this industry and care about providing immense hospitality for people. Is that a good answer? I hope it was. Sorry, I'm not always talking to people, so I'm like, did I answer that right? Because sometimes ADHD just like, I kind of go emotional. I'm an Enneagram 4, by the way. Any of those who know about Enneagram?
So I have a question about just your education. Did you go to culinary school, or was it just a passion and you kind of just worked in the kitchen?
So I have a degree in food science and molecular biology, and then I just started working in kitchens. And I just kind of begged people for jobs, moved to Nashville, and just like met a bunch of really cool chefs, and it was like, hey, can I come peel potatoes for you? And then I would go to do that, and it was actually, hey, we're gonna ferment 50 gallons of hot sauce today. It's like, awesome. And so it's just, and I would like go in early, like my shift would start at 2, I would go in at 8 o'clock in the morning, just to learn more and like be engaged and be inspired and like constantly carrying around like a moleskin. I was like writing stuff in it every single day. Like everything that someone said, I would write it down. Draw pictures of the plates, like think about it all the time. I mean, I think to do this, you got to be a little crazy and you got to be a little slanted towards that indulgence and just being so engaged that like it's what you dream about, it's what you think about, it's what you breathe. Like I'm always, I'll taste something and I'm like, oh yeah, that reminds me of this thing. It's like, how do you know that? It's like, well, I just tried it. I'm just like pick stuff up. Y'all should walk around the farmer's market eating everything. You should never buy anything until you eat it first. Like that's just how it should be. And that's what I did. I mean, I just was overindulgent about the information and what I wanted to kind of put in my head about it.
Why the name Milo All Day?
So, my name's not Milo. People call me Milo all the time. But, so Milo is a grain that grows, it's prevalent all around here. You'll see it, it's about this tall, has a green stalk, and has like a red, red fruit or wheat that grows to it. You can pop that like popcorn, you can grind it into a grain. It's gluten-free. And then the stalk also, they cook down into sorghum. And so I became obsessed with sorghum living in Nashville, and it just became like I don't want cane syrup, I don't want molasses, I want sorghum. If you've never had sorghum, you should come in the restaurant, we put it on everything. It's a little funkier, it's sweet, it's bitter, and by funky I mean it's like you can't put your finger on like, what is it that I like about this? Like I think that's what funky is in my opinion. It's like, why do I love this so much and why can't I stop eating it and why is it all over me right now? And I think that I had this like relationship with sorghum that I was like, this is one of my favorite things. And so whenever my wife and I were actually in Nashville, we like had a little board in our apartment, and like I would just write something on there every single day of like what I wanted to call this thing. Like I didn't have a name, and I wrote sorghum on there. I wrote sorghum. I was like, oh, that's not really catchy. It's like there's a weird H in there, and no one's ever gonna know how to spell it. And it's gonna be a disaster. And then I got to doing a little bit of research about sorghum and found out that it comes from Milo. And I kind of brought it up to my wife. I was like, hey, what do you think about Milo? And she's like, that's great. My grandfather's grown Milo for the past 50 years and up in Canyon, Texas. And so it had this familial thing, this really comfortable thing that I loved, that I was like really passionate about using and sharing with people about the story of Milo. And if you've never seen sorghum produced, the old school way they used to do it, it's this like steel cauldron. And they'd build a fire on the top and the bottom, and then two horses on either side. And then the fire from below, and then this crank from the top would push down the sorghum and cook it into the syrup in this big cauldron. I mean, that's the only word I have for it. But it's really cool to watch it because it just slowly, like they just kind of turn it, and it slowly cooks, and like they're always stirring it. And it's just like a very honest production method. And I think that it was one of the first things that people where I'm from kind of started to produce. And I'm from Georgia originally, and so it just had this kind of long history with where I came from, who I'm about, what this restaurant is about. It's like Milo is a virtually 100% use product, and a lot of the really, really good feeds has a lot of protein. This is so much more information you wanted to know. But, it does have a lot of protein. It's really healthy for animals. It's in a lot of feed. It's in a lot of the better commercial feed, but that's why I called it that. I can call on you. Is that okay? Can I call on her?
Hello.
Hey.
Hi. Would you ever consider offering like a nutritional menu online for people to see like kind of the breakdown of all of the entrees?
So nutritional in like there's 43 grams of fat in this. So that's pretty expensive. Yeah. So you have to prepare everything exactly the way that it is. And you have to send it to I think it's called a hydrometer, and then you have to pay for them to molecularly examine each piece of everything that you put in there, and then everything that you put on the dish. It's just super expensive.
So you have like looked into it?
I got a degree in food science, and we did that for a couple things. And I just know that it's expensive, but I haven't looked into doing it. But you can come in and be like, hey, what's healthy? I'm like, this is what's healthy. We cook everything in clarified butter also, which is the best. Yeah.
Why did you pick Waco and not somewhere else like Nashville?
Barrier to entry, it's cost. Waco's a cool town, and I think it's underserved with food, especially like thoughtful food. I mean, I think there's us, Moroso, Guess, Hecho. I think there's a lot of people who are doing some really cool stuff, and we kind of moved here at the right time, and my wife got offered a job with Magnolia too, so it kind of helped. She forced me to move here.
Okay, I'm curious if you guys started out as an LLC when you were just at the farmer's market, or how that whole progress went.
We did. We started out as an LLC, and now we're actually moving to an S corp, because taxes are the worst. And I don't know if y'all know that, but you will know that. But yeah, we started out as an LLC and operated as an LLC for a long time, but just because investor distributions and stuff like that, S corp is just going to be the way to go, and it's just going to help us out tax wise, and also we're always buying more and more and more equipment, and we always just the way that inventory is considered in LLC, taking it from year to year, month to month, and the S corp is going to end up being better for us. I bet y'all didn't expect me to know the answer to that, did you?
Hi. Okay, sorry. I don't like microphones.
Hey, I don't either. That's why I wanted to wear the lapel.
I just want to say thank you for coming out today. I love the restaurant biz, so this was really interesting. My question for you was about getting your business team together, like your business partners. How'd you go about finding people who were just as passionate about you, about your project, but also people who could financially back you?
So it kind of happened serendipitously, I would say. So we also did these pop-up dinners that we did kind of all over Waco. Sometimes we do it out in the middle of a field, or we do it at a brewery, or we do it like an old building or something like that. And there was a couple, Jared and Jill Danford, that actually are from Nashville. We knew all the same people, but never knew each other until we both moved to Waco, which was kind of weird. But they had just come to a bunch of the dinners, and Jared and I started hanging out and just started talking and dreaming. Same thing with Blake and Kimberly Batson, who are some of my business partners as well. Like, we started hanging out and just like talking and dreaming and thinking like, hey, how cool would it be if like we did all these little things and we all like kind of bound together. I mean, I standardize all the recipes for Heritage Creamery. If you ever go to eat Heritage ice cream, you're welcome. It's awesome. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, I had to say that. It's really good ice cream. It's really good when you get into a 5-gallon bucket and you're really depressed and you just like wrap your legs around it, and you're just like, shut up, it's the best. It's super good. But yeah, I think that those people will reveal themselves to you. You also get a lot of people reveal themselves to you that are just in it for the money. Like, you're gonna make a lot of money, or I wanna invest in this. Because some people just love investing in stuff. And it's not always the right fit for you. I mean, there was a lot of people that we kind of entertained the exact same thing. Like, they wanted too much control, they wanted too much input, honestly. And at a foundational level, you're the one that dreamt this thing up. You need help to realize it and to facilitate it and to manage it, but no one should ever step in front of you to say, no, I don't think that's the right vision for the business. Like, no, you dreamt this thing up. Like, this is your thing. You got to surround yourself with people that care about you, that care about your family, care about the longevity of this idea and this business. Those are the people you need to put yourself in contact with, and not just the people that are like, hey, here's $100,000. Like, we're going to talk every single month. You're going to give me a report. That's going to be our relationship. Like, you want people that will sweat with you, that will cry with you, that'll pray for you. Like, those are the people that you want on your side. So I think that over time, those people will definitely make themselves known if they're supposed to be with you in this business. Yeah. Any other questions? What's my favorite dish? My favorite dish is... No, go ahead.
So, interestingly, you just mentioned people who will pray for you. And so, what does faith look like in this stepping out and starting this new business? And like that?
It's all faith. Like I said earlier, like, cash flow is king. And, there are nights where, like, So there's a difference between like being, sorry, I'm going to get to your point, but there's a difference between being busy and being successful. You can be busy but not be successful. Busy, mismanaged, busy that's poorly managed never helps you be successful. You can be busy for 10 years and never make any money and never do anything really important for yourself. You know, never really like feed yourself to like, what is all this work meant for is what I mean. But I mean, there have been nights where like I've been like just emotionally distraught, sitting with my wife, praying like, God, like show us like the right way forward, like show us like who we need to hire, who we need to let go, like who are people we need to like bring closer to us, you know, like all those things. And I mean, especially so because of the amount of hours that I actually work. I mean, I see my wife every now and then, truthfully. And it's hard because she has to have faith that I'm doing this for us, and I have to have faith that she's doing what she's doing for us as well, and that we're working towards it together right now, but like also separately. And so I think that being married is hard in this industry, again, because like I was there at 6:30 this morning. I'll be there until midnight tonight. I'm here right now, hanging out with y'all. Don't tell her about it. Just kidding. But she knows I'm here, guys, all right? Don't freak out. You know, I think that it's all faith. I mean, none of us really ever know if something's going to work out. And so I think that if I was left to my own devices, I would drive myself completely insane thinking, is this going to work? 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 I mean, that's what I would do. I would just sit there and like walk in circles thinking that. But like, you know, I think that having the faith that like I've gotten this far for some reason, like why would it fail now, you know? And having faith that I do believe that like God put me in Waco, God put me to open Milo, God put a spirit in me that doesn't want to have like an abusive restaurant, doesn't want to have, I mean, because kitchens are extremely abusive and it's totally insane, and people abuse a lot of, you know, alcohol, drugs. I mean, it's really, really a wild industry if you don't have good leadership of people who really truly care. I mean, I've sat down with so many of my employees and like prayed with them, cried with them. Like, I think that God wanted me to do this because of that too. Is like open a restaurant, be good to people, love them, show them why you are who you are. And I think that's paramount. Yeah.
So you talk about a lot of like your successes and your good dishes. What's an experiment that maybe didn't go so well?
Oh man. Well, so I had this really fun idea to do a whole trout, and I had the eyes on it, had the head on it, all of it, and people hated it. Absolutely hated it. And I was like, I think it's really good. They're like, no, it's not good. And I think there's just like a combination of like I was probably trying too hard, and I was trying to make it like we were searing it, and we were grilling it, and then we were letting it finish in the oven. I wanted to serve it like a little mid-rare, and people just didn't like it. They were like, I don't know. Yeah, whatever. That one was terrible. Also like the set. So in the restaurant, the sides, so you get a composed dish. So you have like your protein, you have your sauces, you have your vegetables. It's called a set. And I think the set that went with it was just really not good either. I was like trying to do this like kind of hot and cold, like so it was like some dressed greens, and then it was like these like warm tomatoes, and I don't know, just something just didn't click with people. That one was horrible. The first ketchup that we came out with was horrible. People hated it. I loved it. And I thought it was really fun. And I thought it was like a different play on ketchup. And people were like, no, we just want Heinz ketchup. I'm like, yeah, but like we made this here. Like we like ground the tomatoes like through the meat grinder. It was clean. And like, you know, we like, you know, took all that out and then juiced it and like did all this stuff. They're like, I don't really care. Give me some Heinz ketchup. I'm like, I'm gonna make you Heinz ketchup. And they still don't like that either. So we have Heinz ketchup. That's what I'm trying to say. let's see, what's another bad dish that I did? I don't know, I'm really good. So it's really hard to say. This duck dish I did one time actually no, confit rabbit, not good. It also, I served it with, I don't know why I thought this would be good, but like in the moment, it just felt right. So confit rabbit, and then we like kind of shredded it. I don't know if you ever had rabbit before, but if you overcook it, it doesn't get great. And where duck has enough fat to it, where like you can confit a duck. So confit, for those of you that don't know, is when you cook things and it's either in its own fat, which is how traditional duck confit is done, or you cook things just in a fat. So you can confit a tomato using like grapeseed oil or like olive oil. You just slowly braise it in the oil for an extended period of time. So we did that with the rabbit, and then we made these like little things out of them. It ended up looking like cat food, and just like not great. And no one. It was like this party we did, and like no one touched it. It was like on this like lettuce wrap with these pickled. We actually did pickled walnuts with that too, and I think that might have been what people hated most. And so sometimes I do get a little too far outside, and also the baba ganoush. It's like a eggplant hummus. It wasn't really pureed enough, and it also looked like cat food. I think that I just want to make cat food sometimes, but that one wasn't great either.
From your mistakes, what is the greatest lesson that you learned that we can take going forward?
Keep pushing, and I mean literally don't stop. Even in those bad dishes, there was always like an element that was good, like we should hang on to. I mean, I pickled like 10 pounds of walnuts, and then I only used like half a pound of them. I had all these walnuts left over. So I can't just throw all these walnuts away. Like, what can it work on? So I got to thinking. I was like, carrot cake has vinegar in it. It also has walnuts on it. Maybe we can make this work with a carrot dish. And so we did these chewy carrots. So we take a baking sheet, put a mesh tray into it, and then put we use this thing called a combitherm. So it's a dual steam injection, vapor pressure, and heat oven. And so you can inject pressure into the oven to actually create pressure within the food, and then inject vapor into it to allow it to not dry out. So put that into the combitherm and let it slowly cook. So like the carrot actually cooks all the way through, gets wrinkly, but then it tastes, it like has like a chew to it. So we did that, and then we would cook the carrots like that, sear it really hard, and get it super charred and smoky. She's like the only person I know at Baylor. And then we took some Greek yogurt, smoked the yogurt, and then crumbled up the pickled walnuts and put that over the top. So it kind of like brought this kind of carrot cake, savory dish kind of element into it. So I think that you will fail. You will fail every single day sometimes, but fall forward, and there's always something that you did right, even in a failure, I think. And so I think that you always need to think through like all the elements of like, well, I failed because of this reason, but like this was a really good idea. This was applied poorly, and like move it over to something else. I think it could work. Any other questions? Okay.